You can drink your fancy ales, you can drink them by the flagons, but the only brews that brave and true
come from Tenkar's Tavern. Welcome to Heroes Brew, the official podcast of Tenkar's Tavern, your local pub in the OSR.
Evening, folks. Welcome to episode 2 of Heroes Brew. I'm James.
Yay, James!
That's Eric, and Glenn's over in the corner. I'm crotchety tonight, so you folks under for me. I'm grumpy. So we're here. Let's talk about gaming.
I'm happy. Sleepy's over there.
I'm sneezy. Or snoozy or boozy. Is there a dwarf called boozy? I want to be boozy. Although I'm going to have to make the true confession. I am not drinking alcohol. I am drinking Mountain Dew Black Cherry Kickstarter, and I'll probably move on to ginger beer when I get more ginger beer.
Oh, well, you're drinking Mountain Dew Black Cherry Kickstarter, so you're going to drink it and then you're going to trash it in your blog later?
Well, no, I'm not going to trash.
You said it was a Kickstarter. Oh, it's a
Kickstarter. I didn't follow that.
Where's my drummer?
Yeah. Wow. I got to fall on the sword in that one because I really screwed up. That was, here, I'm laying this out for you, Eric. It's a great line. Huh?
That's okay. It happens. I can tell you a story of Saber Die. But anyway, I won't. So we're doing various and sundry. We don't have any emails because nobody looked at the emails box. But
I can look at the emails box. I'm lazy, but I can still look. Hold on.
Sure, if you're not busy being grumpy. Sure.
Oh, by the way, I want to start something new. I'm gonna since we did this last, I'm gonna go. Hi, Vince. Hi. Sorry, I just had to do that.
No, we already said happy birthday.
No, I know. Happy birthday plus 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way, guys at the Royal Manticorian Navy, you're welcome. They were tickled pink that we mentioned them last show, and I'll mention them again. The Royal Manticorian Navy in Austin, Texas, where it's not flooding.
Wow, but they can't flood because they're land bound. I still don't understand that. I still need to be explained how they have a Royal, whatever Navy in Austin.
Hey, doesn't the Swiss have a Navy too?
They could. I'm not Swiss, so I don't know.
They're landlocked, so.
All right. So you're telling me technicalities. I'll have to accept the technicalities.
Hey, while we're waiting for James, why don't you talk about what's going on in Kickstarter land?
Oh, no, I can't do Kickstarter land until you give me the drum roll.
All right, you want the did it?
Yeah, I want the did it.
This is a Kickstarter report by Eric Tenkar.
Hello, folks. Eric Tenkar reporting from Kickstarter land. We have the following, which I'm not going to keep talking in this same voice because I'll have to kill myself if I do. So here I am back to my normal voice. There.
Mine is a terrible thing to waste. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, this may or may not be time-friendly for those with this episode because it might end beforehand, but the Game Master's Apprentice, a fantasy deck for any RPG, looks like a great way to, dare I say, kickstart your creative abilities when you're looking to get an adventure idea or an encounter idea. However, it will be available on one bookshelf. There are previous decks in the series that are available already, but I got to say this looks really good, and I will kick myself if I don't back the project. It is you're backing for print-on-demand access, so $25 would give you the PDFs and all the original Game Master Apprentice decks print-on-demand at cost at RPG Now. That's number one.
So you're going to kick yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah. And of course, I lost a tab of another one in the midst of this. Oh my god, it was cool too. I had really cool terrain. Maybe I'll look it up later and figure out what I lost. Here, one not to back. It's called Rage the Storytelling RPG, and what I love about this one, okay, which I haven't done a what not to back one yet, but what makes raids different, and I'm going to give you a quick reading here. The rules vary from other RPGs in many ways. There are no character levels. That is like everything that isn't D&D has no character levels. So, okay, that's nothing new. Instead, you use skills and abilities to progress the story, like RuneQuest and Call of Cthulhu and Warhammer and Traveler.
And Fate.
And Fate, yes, and Fate.
Star Wars Fantasy Flight, Star Wars D6.
Yeah,
Shadowrun.
There are no classes. Okay, again, that's the vast majority.
GURPS.
Right.
Yeah, they got stats.
Wait, but you don't have classes. You do.
That's right. You're right. They don't have classes.
The combat system involves actively rolling to block attacks. That again is RuneQuest.
Star Wars D6.
Star Wars D6. It could be Fate. I don't know Fate well enough for Fate may have it. It may not have it.
Yeah, it's pretty. You go against it.
Rating falls under all these categories.
Oh yeah. So I read this and it's like, yeah, you're right. You're not like any RPG as long as not any RPG is not D&D, because you're basically quoting from every other RPG out there. So yeah, that is Raise the Storytelling RPG. But don't worry, they're not going to fund, and if they do, it's because they're selling T-shirts and buttons, because it's not for the game.
That's not good.
Hey Eric, do me a favor and type in the password.
What?
Type in the email password for James.
Oh, bloody hell, like I remember.
Oh, nice. I lost that sticky on
professional show for us right here.
Yeah.
There we go. Write down the password.
Professional podcaster.
Bagels, maybe?
So Tinker's Heroes Brews something or other.
I don't remember.
I have no.
We'll figure it out by next time.
We'll figure it out next time, but I'm sure there's plenty of people who are just cheering us on out there.
Oh, they're like, these people are professional. Professional what? We don't know, but we're certainly working at it. All right, the last one I'm going to highlight here is Superhero 2044.
Oh, they're doing a new version.
With miniatures. Now, yes, I remember, here's the deal. I remember Superhero 2044 from back in the day. And I found it to be an interesting game. We never played it, but we stole concepts and character types for the few times we played other superhero role-playing games. But 2044, the RPG with miniatures is not a selling point.
No, it's not.
It is not, because theater of the mind goes out of the window, and I really think that very few people, I could be wrong, but I just can judge from the people I know, that very few people are looking to play this superheroes game while moving around miniatures. And, by the way, everybody wants their superhero to look like they imagine it. So...
Doesn't happen in D&D.
No, but, especially when it comes to superheroes, you have that, like, he's got a blue costume with a purple question mark in the middle of his chest, and they got the golden cape with the big buttons on the side, and a flap for the diaper in the back. I mean...
We used to use... I used tokens for D&D. We used to use champions. You could make your own token and put whatever the hell you want on it.
I was thinking about the way characters look in RPGs, and if you think about the way a mid to high level D&D character would look, they would look like a cheap magic shop threw up on a person, because I'm wearing this helmet I found in one dungeon, this set of chainmail I found 3 levels later, a pair of gloves that are made of soap, an elven cloak, a pair of boots made out of dragon skin. It would just be
wait, you're forgetting the 4 different swords, 3 different daggers, a handful of maces, 2 bows.
And this bag of marbles I found some.
Right. The bag of marbles they refuse to give up, because one day, damn it, it's going to save their life in a chase.
That's right.
Dude, I've used marbles to do that, but yes, they will. Marbles rock! But here's the deal. They're asking $100,000 for this Kickstarter to fund. Okay?
How many previously backed and they previously funded?
That makes too much sense for me to actually... 4 created. Prior.
How many successfully funded, though?
Well, hold on, let me check.
Because that to me is a big benchmark of actually, let's see how many of you back, basically how experienced are you, because then you can get a sense of somebody's follow-through.
All right, well, let's go through this one. Monstra, Zombie Destroyer, funding unsuccessful, 6/22/2013. The Winsor McCrae Project, funding on this project ended unsuccessfully on February 1st, 2014. So let's move up to the Winsor McCrae Project relaunch. It was so good, we did it twice. And guess what?
It didn't fund.
4/13/2014. So these were all comics, and that's why he's obviously going for a tabletop RPG that's based on a comic.
Well, you see, as far... I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail you there.
No, you've got a lot, dude. We don't believe in sticking to the rails in this podcast, dude. We are a sandbox.
That's right. Anyway, when I was talking about, as far as miniatures go, that's neither here nor there for superheroes. I have a fundamental problem with the miniatures because I think somebody made a point over in the live Tenkar's Tavern the other night that projects with miniatures tend to do really poorly because it seems like a Kickstarter that's doing an RPG has a really good chance of funding. So does a Kickstarter with just miniatures, but you put them together, and that seems to be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's not like your Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
Yeah, I mean, look at Reaper. They're successful in miniatures, no problem. And Troll Lord, they do great role-playing games through Kickstarter.
I'm gonna liken it to taking beer and like strawberry ice cream and thinking you can mix the two together or serve them together.
I don't know why it's that way. You think it'd be unnatural,
but even the ones that listen, there is the exception is going to prove the rule. Zach Glazer, when he had lesser known games, did 2 successful box sets, which had miniatures. The man is an amazing project manager. He priced it down to the T. He did it successfully on time. The man's great. Now that being said, those of you who like me are still waiting on one of the Judges Guild Kickstarters for the Wildlands and the City State. That was one that brought in miniatures. Here's where I see it as a problem. The pricing of miniatures and the pricing of books is totally separate. And when people are backing for the miniatures, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to fund the books. I mean, the profit margin on the two has to be
huge.
Well, it has to be the difference between the two has to be huge, and the investment in miniatures, you got to get somebody who's going to make that stuff for you. It's not like you're just reaching out to a book printer. You got to find somebody who's going to make the molds. You got to find your sculptors. They work much better as separate Kickstarters, and I think that the reason why you're seeing $100,000 goal here is because you've thrown in the miniatures. Now, the miniatures on this Kickstarter page look great. I'm not going to say that what they're showing here looks awesome. However, it's going to be a huge sink in time. I mean, and we're also forgetting center stage miniatures.
That's the first thing I think every time I see an RPG with miniatures. That's the first thing I think of is Tome of Horror miniatures.
I mean, and I could probably, if I got my notes together, do a whole episode on that because I got to talk to Bill from Pacesetter Games, and because he picked up the rights and is trying to do right by people, but basically what happened with that Kickstarter, and it happens with various Kickstarters, and so the warning sign is if you see a Kickstarter for a product and then it's quickly followed after funding by a second Kickstarter, you might be seeing something where somebody is raising money with the second Kickstarter to actually fulfill the first because they don't, that new math they're teaching in schools for the last 20 years maybe isn't really good math because these people are having a real problem making their numbers work. So
it's called the Ken technique.
No, well, it's also called the stretch goals can kill your project technique.
Exactly. That's why you got to be very careful about your stretch goals.
I mean, if you're not experienced at running a Kickstarter, if it's your first one and you want to play with stretch goals, here's my unsolicited advice from your good old crotchety Uncle Tenkar sitting at the corner of the bar on his fifth beer and his bucket of chips in front of him. Keep your stretch goals in PDF because, yes, you might have to spend time writing the product and laying it out and finding art assets, but you're not having to pay print and you're not having to pay to ship. So if you're going to do stretch goals and you're not experienced at this, PDF.
Right. At least for the first one.
Maybe for the second one, really, because the print cost eats up your profit margin. And the whole thing is, people think that I'm doing this Kickstarter, I made $10,000 on it. Woohoo! No, you didn't. After they take away the fees for Kickstarter and payment fees, you're down to about $9,000. Woohoo! Taxman comes in. Oh wait, you're not incorporated, so you're actually this is personal income. All right, so now you woohoo! Oh shit!
Yeah, no, the tax man goes woohoo.
Woohoo! Yeah, you go. Oh, just bend me over, right? So now you're lucky you're down to $6,000. Wait, you actually included shipping in the cost. You didn't make it like an extra thing. Well, guess what? Shipping is never what you think it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, have fun again. And there you go.
I know that there's something else you can do kind of to offset this, and I saw Jeff Talanian do this.
You know who runs really, really, really good, very small scale, very quiet Kickstarters? Pete Spawn.
Yes.
He does little like $1,000 or $500 Kickstarters. He does just enough to fund his product, and his rewards are typically at cost of the product that he sends links out when it's available and free PDFs. And he goes to his friends in the community and asks them to help him out. And he really knows how to run. If you're new to Kickstarter and you really, really want to do one, look up Pete Spawn's Kickstarters.
You know, there's a lot of people you can point to and say, this is how not to do a Kickstarter. But I know at least 3 or 4 people I can point to and say, that's the way to do a Kickstarter. And he's one of them.
You know who else does awesome Kickstarters?
Kevin Chevignon.
Yep.
Kevin Chevignon, those blue dungeon tiles, It was great.
Oh, okay.
He was a little off schedule. He kept everybody, he told people what was going on. When he delivered, and he had all his T's crossed and I's dotted. It was a sight to behold, as far as I'm concerned.
Also, Greg Gillespie, author of Barrow Maze.
Yes,
he does a Kickstarter.
I know he does Indiegogo more than Kickstarter, but
no, his second one he did a straight up Kickstarter when he did the big mod he's working on now. That's totally escaping the Forbidden Tomb of Acarista or something. I forget what it's called because I'm angry and tired. But
give you a hug.
No, don't. If you touch me, I'll break your neck.
You can try.
Anyway. And I want to throw one other name in as we're talking about this again, and this is for smaller Kickstarters. Like we're talking about Pete Wenger Santanis. He always gets them out on time. He sources amazing artwork. I mean, and he's not going for any high. Like he's not looking to raise $25,000, $100,000. How is your first successful Kickstarter going to bring in $100,000? God.
No one thinks you're that cool. Stop it.
Okay,
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Douglas Cole from Gaming Ballistic. He put out the Dungeon Grappling as a Kickstarter because he needed to learn the process, and this was a smaller product that he could put out and understand. To do it. And he's learned. I've talked to Doug, and he pops into the Tavern's Discord channel and talks a lot about the process. And it's amazing to see like the behind the scenes work. But like he said, he goes, "Who would trust me for if I'm asking you for $100,000 and I've done nothing to get you to deserve your money? Why would you give it? I have no track record." He goes, "Build a track record and build it for yourself."
I think you need to know yourself personally. For example, I cannot imagine a circumstance where I personally would ever use a crowdfunding source for a Battle Rider Games project, because I am entirely too ADHD. And so if I set myself a deadline and I miss it, then I've just wrecked my entire reputation.
Okay. Well, I wanted to wrap this up to I previously wanted to mention something Jeff Talanian did, which would be a good idea for a lot of the starters out there who either drown in stretch goals or miscalculate the shipping or the size. He finished the Astonishing Swordsman Kickstarter, and then he offered people to pre-buy after all the Kickstarters were done.
Did he?
Yes.
Damn it! I wish I'd
you
known
can still
that.
you can still do. But the nice thing about it, the people who did the Kickstarter locked in. The people who get pre-orders. He just came out with an email saying the book is now grown to 615 pages.
Damn.
And he had to up the price $10. So I understand that.
I'm locked in.
Yeah,
You dropped your ice cream.
I mean, he even hit me up for another $13 about a few months ago to cover, he miscalculated the shipping. Okay, he's keeping us, but, offering it on the side, is a good way to keep yourself on track. And if anything unforeseen happens, it's going to hit the people who are doing the pre-order, not the Kickstarter people, not the people who backed it.
Well, not only that, you just talk about updates. He does updates. He tells you what's going on.
Yes.
I back so much stuff. I'll be honest with you. And this is a true confession. I don't read 4 to 5 updates on projects that I get because my main mailbox. What the hell's an mailbox? My main mailbox for all this Kickstarter stuff probably gets 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 updates a day from various projects.
Right.
I just don't have the time.
I don't get them as much, and they're all coming up this year. So I get it every once in a while. But yes, Jeff keeps people in the loop. But I'm saying that whole thing about doing the pre-orders after the starter is great because it gives you kind of an insurance on unforeseen things like, oh, the book is now 600 pages. Oh, I forgot. I miscalculated the shipping and stuff like that.
Well, and it lets bastards like me who couldn't get in at the time get in.
Exactly. I mean, you're going to take a chance just like the Kickstarter backers. I mean, I think the Kickstarter backers taking a bigger chance because it may not fund. But, if he's going to hit you up for another $10 because the book got bigger or something, hey, that's, you want it, you pay it. That's what I'm saying. Anyway.
Well,
pre-order on the page. Nice.
Who, what?
Sorry, I think it's actual pre-order on the page. I was pretty impressed.
Yes. Exactly. That's what I was saying. I think more backers ought to do, more people who do Kickstarters ought to do that.
I think that's a very new feature.
Yeah. I like it. I do like it because it also makes the Kickstarter a little more credible in people's eyes. And believe me, a lot of Kickstarters need credibility. Believe me. So what are we going to talk about? Sci-fi?
I hate sci-fi.
Oh,
yes.
well, okay.
We totally hate sci-fi, right? Falca hates sci-fi. You can hear it now.
Okay, fine. Horror. No.
Sci-fi. Actually, it's appropriate because today begins the toy blitz for the new Star Wars movie. Today is Force Friday 2, where all the Last Jedi action figures and paraphernalia is now in retail stores.
Oh, God, let me run down and spend all my money.
Hey. I want my Luke Skywalker action figure.
You'll get your Luke Skywalker action figure. Just be thankful it's not Christmas time.
Well, it's funny, when The Force Awakens came out, I told my wife, I said, look, I don't want a whole lot of Star Wars crap because I know we don't need it, but I'm buying a grumpy old man Luke action figure. It's just a fact.
Grumpy old Luke. I like that.
That's damn cool.
It is.
Yeah, so that happened today. I have an Audible account. I've been sitting on my Audible credits because I tend to follow all the Star Wars novels. And okay, so we're gonna, because we are Heroes Brew and we talk about stuff and we really don't worry about it. One of the things I really like is the 2 novels that dropped today for Star Wars were a novel called Leia, which is obviously about Princess Leia, when she was 16 and her finding out that her dad is one of the leaders in the rebellion and how it affects their relationship. And that's really cool. I think it's an interesting character study. And then they did a novel on Captain Phasma, the Chrome Stormtrooper. That's going to be on her background. Now, I know a lot of people, there's a lot of politics that flies around in media about diversity and gender inclusion and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I like that with Star Wars, they do it, but they don't make a big deal out of it. Like, when The Force Awakens came out, your three leads were, a woman, an African-American man, and a Latino man. And they weren't like, look at us. We're putting all these diverse people in the movie. They're like, yep, these are our characters. Go.
And we killed one of the white guys off. So,
Well, you killed the guy off who wanted to die. Harrison Ford's wanted to kill off Han Solo since 1983.
I know.
But like, both of these novels have female leads, but they're not like, ooh, look at us putting women first. They're like, no, here's a novel, here's a character, read it, enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, okay. They're not using it to make a political statement.
Well, it fits the story. They're making a story to fit the character or finding the character that fits the story. And I will be the first true confession time. I've not seen the new Star Wars movie.
Eric?
It's not out yet.
No, the previous one.
Oh, Rogue One? Or?
No, yeah, whatever that one was.
Well, there's been two of them.
Force Awakens.
There's been two?
Yeah.
Oh.
Force Awakens and then Rogue One, which was kind of a prequel to...
Listen, after, the initial trilogy, which came after the second trilogy, and Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks killed.
No, dude.
No, let's not go down that pit.
Dude, we're not
Jar Jar Binks.
We're not going to Jar Jar Binks road, but I'm telling you, watch Rogue One.
Yeah, you should.
It will restore. Imagine a Star Wars movie done in the tone of the Dirty Dozen.
Okay, now that actually sounds extremely good and does not compute.
The story is basically how the rebellion got the plans to start.
Yep. And no spoilers. It is not.
That's as far as I go.
Movie. It is not your daddy's Star Wars movie. It is
all right. So no Jar Jar Binks.
There's no Jar Jar Binks.
They haven't found them yet. So
let's put it this way.
Thank God.
It's the first Star Wars movie they've ever done where there's not a lightsaber duel in it at all. It's about a military team.
A bunch of ragtag guys with blasters. It fits between the third one of the first trilogy and the A New Hope. It fits between there.
If you watch,
it fits between the good movies.
Yeah. Here's how it works. If you watch Rogue One, you could turn Rogue One off, and it literally ends immediately, like minutes before the original Star Wars begins.
Yeah.
Oh wow! All right, so you sold me. Okay.
Now go forth and watch.
It's amazing. I think
you find out how and why the Death Star built.
I'm gonna assume it's not on Netflix. I'm guessing.
No, it is not.
All right. I'll be enjoying myself with Poconos.
Since Disney's yanking all their stuff off of Netflix, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on Netflix.
Yeah, I know. I saw that too.
Yeah. Anyway, one thing I wonder about now the Fantasy Star Wars, which I have no experience with.
I have a little bit.
They still have the Lucas license.
That is correct.
Is Disney leading as much on them as Lucas did on the D20 Star? Because I remember they had to keep coming out with revisions of the core book because from what I heard, Lucasfilm wanted them to every time they made a change. They wanted TSR to watch it.
No. The way the Fantasy Flight Star Wars RPG works, and I speak as a freelancer and only as a freelancer, which means I do not know the business going behind the doors. But there are 3 core books, but you don't need all 3 to play. Each of them can stand alone.
They're different sections. They're treating as different sections of an epic.
No, not quite. More like different flavors of a setting. Edge of the Empire is if you want to run a campaign that's smugglers and bounty hunters and scumbags, that's Edge of the Empire. If you want to run a team of rebels who are fighting against the Empire, that's Age of Rebellion. if you want to run Jedi and Force users, that's Force and Destiny. But they are all 100% cross-compatible. So if you have multiples, you can have a party with a smuggler and an X-Wing pilot and a Jedi.
How about a scumbag Jedi?
A what?
A scumbag.
Yes, there is a template, and they include small elements of the other. Like in Edge of the Empire, it's not Jedi-focused. There's a career you can take called Force-Sensitive Exile, where you have a little bit of the Force, but you keep it hidden, and you use it mostly to do like stealthy shit and not get noticed. Or Age of Rebellion has Force-Sensitive Emergent, which is like, think Luke in The Empire Strikes Back. You're not really a Jedi, but you have a strong Force ability, and you're very gung-ho and let's protect the galaxy. And then Force and Destiny is like, not only can you be just a Jedi, you can be any kind of Force user. And one of the things I love about Fantasy Flight's system, other than the everything, is the fact that it is the only system that makes it viable and reasonable to play a dark side character without breaking the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I guess that was one downside of the D6.
D6 and D20, both of them, you couldn't be a dark side. If you became dark side, you lose your character automatically.
Yeah, which is okay with me. I mean, a D6 is so good.
D6 is so good. Oh, and speaking of D6, and not to shill Fantasy Flight too hard, but they have announced that they are republishing the Star Wars role-playing game First Edition.
I saw that.
And the source book, and I was just like, oh my God.
I had copies of those the first week they came. I remember, though.
It was the first role-playing game I ever played. And when they announced that, I sent Sam Stewart, who's head of their RPG department, like a Facebook, which was like, thank you so much for doing that. And Sam's like, it's cool. And we're really excited about it. So, but yeah. So it's nice of them to show a little love to the old school that way.
I like you, Glenn.
Come on, show a little leg. Anyway,
do you really want me? Listen, you don't say it to me and James because we will show it to you.
Just as long as James doesn't show me his. Pull up. As long as James doesn't pull up his shirt, I'm fine.
As long as I don't pull an introducing Frank Menser.
Oh my God! Still that.
But that's interesting because it's so Fantasy Flight. It's all the same engine.
Yes, all three systems are under the same engine.
So if a new movie comes out and they did change some stuff, it'd be very easy to change like one part of it.
Well, what they have started doing now is they just announced the first in what they're calling era source books, which work with all three, but are different time periods. The game defaults to the classic trilogy, and they just announced Dawn of Rebellion, which is set during like Rogue One and the Rebels cartoon series. So, but there's no mechanical changes to it. It's like, here's what you can add to go with that flavor. And I'm sure that that's the kind of thing that, there's so many different eras in Star Wars that the canon has gone in.
Heck yeah. I mean, hurts my head. This is why I just sort of like...
Not me. I'm eating it up with a spoon.
Me, it's like, I'll just follow the movies. I'm fine. I can't take... I mean, I have watched some Clone Wars, the 3D animated one, and we did have both volumes of the original animated Clone Wars, which is... I thought it was incredible. But that's about it. Yeah, the Jenny Tarkaday, whatever his name is.
Yeah, the Samurai Jack guy.
Yeah, the original. And it's, wow, Mace Windu just took out an entire squad of Imperial slugs and a big machine.
The weird thing about the Star Wars role-playing game that Fantasy Flight put out is it's more narrative-based. It's not as crunchy, and it uses unique non-numeric dice, which scares the hell out of everyone, including me at first.
Non-numeric dice?
Me too.
What like fate dice with pluses and minuses on them?
No. Okay. Basically, you have D6s, D12s, and D8s. And you have, and there's two sets of them. And you have a D6 that's blue and a D6 that's black. A D8 that's purple and a D8 that is green. And then you have a D12 that is yellow and a D12 that's red.
Okay.
The blue, the green, and the yellow represent dice for players when they make a skill roll or do something. The other dice represent dice that cancel those results based on the difficulty of a situation.
Okay,
now,
that is weird.
It is weird. It's when you read it, you're like, this is never going to work. And then you play it, and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing. Because what happens is it creates a situation where there's more than just a success-failure rate. It's not just you succeed or you fail, but like you could succeed at a roll, but something complication comes up, or you could fail at a roll, but something good unrelated to the task comes up.
That's like the fate dice with the plus minus.
See, you
got a basic skill or stat or whatever you're doing. You roll 4d6 with the plus minus. The pluses are +1, the minuses are -1, and the blank sides are 0. So you got the plus minus right there, just like you were talking.
So, like with Fantasy Flight, what happens is you have successes and failures. You have a threat and advantage, and then you have despair and triumph. Success and failure is exactly that: success and failure. Threat and advantage are I've just made the situation better. That's outside my success or failure, or I've just made the situation worse outside my success or failure. And triumph and despair is I just did something really, really cool, or oh god, something really horrible just happened. A good example of, and the thing is, you can have a despair and still succeed. So, like for example, in the movies, in the original film, when Luke and Leia are trying to run away from the stormtroopers, and they get to the door, and Leia's like, we got to close it, and she goes, there's no lock. And so what happened was the DM looked at Luke's player and said, all right, make me a mechanics roll. Luke might have rolled 3 successes and a despair. And so the DM goes, all right, you locked the door, but to do it, you blasted it and destroyed the lock. The door slammed shut. Unfortunately, you just destroyed the controls to get across the bridge. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and
so it lets you. The thing it does, at least in the experience, and I ran the game for about a year and a half, and just ended about 3 months ago. Everybody looks at everybody else's dice roll because you're like, oh god, what's going to happen next?
Right.
But it is distinctly not old school. I will say that it's very narrative. It's very. It takes a session or two to wrap your head around. And the fact that each core book is $60 and a set of dice is $15 requires a lot of player faith.
Kind of like 5e.
Really?
I mean dollars and cents. Price.
Well, even 5e, you can buy PHB and go with it, or you can just get the free rules online. Fantasy Flight Star Wars does not offer PDFs. Period. End of story. So if you see PDFs out there, they were pirated.
Okay, that's too bad. Because I pretty much anymore when I buy a print, I demand a
PDF. I don't know why, and because I've freelanced online, I can't speculate as to why they went that route. But I can understand there could be reasons why, or things tied to agreements made.
Yeah, possibly. You can't speculate, but I'm going to speculate based upon Wizards of the Coast's initial reluctance. Remember when they did the Great Purge way back in the day and pulled all the PDFs from one bookshelf? Yes. And then when 5e came out, there wasn't initially going to be anything in PDF, and they were trying to find ways to distribute the material electronically where they control not only the distribution method, but the method to read the electronic format. That was like Project Morningstar, which crashed and burned. And
they didn't want to go the PDF route there.
They initially didn't, because here's the thing with PDFs. Yes, people
they want their own proprietary reader,
so they can control the sharing of it, control the access to it, to make sure one person doesn't download it and share it to 19,000 others. However, the truth of the matter is, and this is my opinion, PDF piracy is piracy. It is theft, but I don't think it is necessarily a lost sale. If somebody downloads, I don't know, let's say Rapin Athuk for Swords and Wizardry in PDF, and 15,000 PDFs that suddenly reach people's collections, how many of them are actually reading it? How many of them are actually looking? I grabbed the PDF, I shoved it in my hard drive, and it's probably going to sit there. Now, you might make a few sales from people who like the PDF and are actually going to buy the hard copy. I don't think you'll ever get somebody who pirates a PDF to actually buy the PDF. Because if they're going to pirate a PDF, they're not looking to pay. My personal opinion on that. But I don't necessarily see a pirated PDF being a loss of sales one-on-one. It doesn't quite match up that way.
I can't. Well, I understand what you're saying, but to me, PDF has value and use beyond just getting it to read.
Well, and I understand that, but again, if there are 1 million copies of this PDF out there, those 1 million people are not using it or reading it. It's
true.
Okay, those aren't 1 million. You weren't going to sell it to 1 million people,
right? Okay.
That's what now. But that's why Wizards of the Coast didn't want to go PDF. Now they've embraced it. Now they're going back and they are releasing PDFs and in print on demand of old stuff. Yes. Now, when it comes to Star Wars, where Fantasy Flight has the rights to publish the material, if this stuff started going viral in PDF, that doesn't just hurt Fantasy Flight; it hurts Lucas/Disney. There's a whole perception involved there too. So you don't want your IP suddenly flying in the wild.
And like I said, I won't speak to specifics of it because
that's why I wouldn't let you. And I'm speaking out of my ass, folks. So you're generally speaking. If I speak, flatulent follows.
I speak flatulent.
I'll say this: as a creator, I am against pirating PDFs. It bothers me on principle. Because people work really hard to do that crap, and most PDFs are reasonably priced.
That is correct. And
most.
Most. What I love with Frog Eye Games is if you buy the print product, you get the PDF.
Exactly, and I think it should be that way. I mean, granted, my situation is a little more unusual because I'm a viewer, and that's why so I can do screen captures and show you, and then I have the physical book where I can put it on camera and see, this is what you're getting right here. Plus, most people would be using it for they put a character sheet in the book. If I got the PDF, I could just print off of that. So,
and I've done that. I've abused my work printer and taken an entire PDF and printed it out and slapped it in a binder, and that's just as valid. If you paid for that PDF, as long as you're not reselling those pages you printed out, you have the right to do what you want with it.
Hey, that's half a Lulu right there. If you're doing it for yourself, go for it.
Yeah, what's the statute of limitations on that, James? Because I'm not saying I did or didn't do that when I was working. What's the statute?
On what?
On using my department-owned printer and department-owned paper to possibly print
you're retired. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, right.
What was it? I printed out like a 250-page rule book at work once. I printed out
I printed out the Savage Worlds first edition, and I actually, bound it with those, when you were in college and you had the clear folder, and that little black plastic to go around the binding on it. I had to put it in two halves. My God, I think I still had it up in the Poconos. That was bathroom reading for years.
The working copy of Galaxy Edition that I was toting around at Texas? That was printed out at work.
Yeah.
That was printed out at work.
Guys.
Yes.
Guys.
I'm going to do us a favor on cutting this.
Okay.
You think?
You want that kind of evidence?
I don't care.
I really don't care either. I mean, my job's not going to track me down for stealing.
No, I was thinking of your jobs. I was thinking of the publishers or whoever wants to come after you with.
Well, you're allowed to print out PDFs.
Well, I printed out something that I wrote, so I think I'm
okay.
Good.
Well, yeah, you're good.
And I printed out a PDF that I actually purchased.
Yeah, if you purchase the PDF, then you, like I said, you have the right to print it out for personal use.
Right. You know how often I walk into Office Depot to print something out, and every 10th to 15th time they'll ask me if I have permission to do this.
Well, here's the thing, and
they won't even let me print things at Office Max. They'll be just no, and I'll be like, but I wrote it. No,
but I'm saying these people never ask.
Oh, well, here's the thing. When layout commences on Continual Light, Continual Light next week with Zach doing this online with me, this is going to be bizarre. But I want to make sure that there is right there where the first page, permission is granted to print this for personal use.
Right.
So, because
dude, I've even had them turn crap like that down because back to Fantasy Flight, one of their specializations have like talent trees. Like you take an ability and it opens up a pathway to other abilities. And at the bottom of those specific pages, permission granted to photocopy this page for personal use.
Right.
And they've still gone, no, we won't do it.
That's kind of boggles.
That's somebody being a jerk.
Yeah.
Somebody trying to cover their butt, basically. I understand that, though. But anyway, the Fantasy Flight is not available PDF, which is interesting. D6 is.
Well, that's a whole other strange thing.
Yeah, because you get the whole D6 system for free.
Right, but Star
system, yes,
Wars, but not Star Wars is not. That what's available for right now in PDF for Star Wars is fan material, and the legality of that is we're not even going to.
You know what I thought was interesting? I used to have a PDF D6 Fantasy Adventure and Space, and if you look in the Space book, it's almost Star Wars with the serial numbers filed out.
It is
pretty much. It pretty much is.
Yeah, D6 Space.
It definitely is. That is.
Well, I think the D6 Adventure is pretty much Indiana Jones with the serial numbers filed off.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, I can see that. But anyway.
Now, before we drop this topic, does anybody besides me remember when Drive-Thru RPG and RPG Now were separate companies, and Drive-Thru would give away like a free game, like in PDF every week or two? But it was always locked down. It was a lockdown PDF that you had to put like a password in to frickin' read it. And that's how my Gamma World. I remember that.
I don't remember that. No.
Yeah.
I don't remember when they were separate companies. I thought they were always one.
I remember when they were separate. I wasn't really doing the PDF thing then, but I didn't get involved in OBS until after they merged and became OBS.
Right. Mm-hmm. I still remember your game. What's your games now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's going back a ways.
Yeah, I know. We're old grognards here.
Anything, turn the millennium forward, I have a hard time dealing with people saying, "Oh, that was a long time ago." No, it wasn't.
Well, think about it this way: it was almost 20 years ago. We're
17 years ago.
We're almost in 2018, so it's almost 20 years ago, and you're still in the 2000s.
Wow.
True. So, I mean, to me, 1980 play. So, 75 was. That was the year I graduated high school.
I wasn't even born yet. I was nowhere near born.
I graduated 85.
97.
I graduated 75.
Oh,
75, going to the game. Yeah, in 81. Yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, we're just establishing we're old.
Except for James, he's just a baby.
I'm almost 40.
Good
oh my God.
Good for you.
Yeah, I remember I turned 40, and I was like, "Oh my God, I turned 40! How horrible is that?" And then I turned 50, and I was like, "Woohoo! AARP, here I come!"
You know what's funny? I wouldn't go back to my 20s again, like for almost anything. I've had a good time in my 30s. I think my 40s are going to be great, but my 20s just sucked.
Well, you're role-playing now. That's why it's great.
No. I was playing enough D&D back then, but in my 20s, I felt like everyone expected me to act like an adult, but I had no idea how.
Yeah, welcome to my world. I'm still trying to figure it out, and I'm Steve. So,
But at least you're honest, dude.
Anyway, let me bring up another talking point. And we talked about that. You started talking. I'm going to go with modules. What do you look for in a module for a game?
Things I can steal.
Okay.
But not literally steal, because we already discussed the piracy aspect.
Yeah. Things that I can cannibalize into my own campaign without using the whole damn thing.
Okay. Have you ever used an entire verbatim?
Oh, yeah, plenty of times. Keep on the Borderlands is pretty much here's the campaign in 28 pages. Castle Ravenloft I've run complete. I've run a fair amount of AD&D First Ed modules as written.
I tend to I tend to take the module. Chunks of it will end up in my campaign if I can smush it in there. You know what I mean? Smush. You like that word, don't you, Eric?
Schmush? I prefer a schmear. I go to
I smear it into my campaign like that, you know?
Like on a nice New York bagel, a big schmear. That's the way you like it.
Castles and Crusades. They ended up going from the Caves of Chaos to something I did to the Isle of Dread.
See, that's one of my favorite ways to hex. That's one of my favorite ways to hex crawl. Is you set up your hex map and you go, this module's here, this module's here, this module's here, this module's here. Right. Campaign seeds, and then you don't have to do any work as a DM. Well, you have to read the modules, but that's
yeah. But it's funny because in about not this Monday, but the Monday after, our Monday game is going to start, and I'm going to be GMing Tunnels and Trolls, and I think I'm going to try my cattle drive idea, where they're hired as scouts for a cattle drive that's going from west to east to deliver cattle. And I'm going to do it as a hex crawl.
See, that's cool. That's a really good way to do a hex crawl because nobody thinks about that,
Yeah.
Because I just the caravan, and it's like, no, there are more than caravans going across the, wilderness.
Right. And it's going to be like caravans and what's interesting, I just printed out a map and go, okay, they're going to start here. They're going to get hired here, and they're going to go all the way to the other side to where they have to deliver the cattle. And then they're going to go up north to deliver the rest of the stuff. And I'm just looking at all these hexes and go stuff that they can run into.
Well, and then the thing is their monetary reward could be based on how much of the cattle survive.
Yeah, I've already got this neat idea, and I hope my players don't listen to this. But in the middle of my world, there's this mountain range called the Dragon Blood Mountains that cuts it not in half, but about 2/3 of it. And there's one pass called Dragon Pass. And the way they're going to have to really, first of all, how do you get cattle over? You can go through a pass. That's fine.
There's got to be either an underpass or an overpass.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange it so either they have right of way or they find an old abandoned. Think of Moria.
That's what I was thinking.
Think of running cattle through the mines of Moria.
Well, I was thinking, how hard would it be to push a herd of cattle through a 10-by-10 hallway that's 10 foot wide, 10 foot high, and 50 feet long?
But you remember those huge, gigantic hallways that I imagine? I go, yeah, you can run 150 heads right cattle. There's with room to spare.
Yeah, but then you got to get them to cross the bridge of Khazad-dûm, which is wide enough for.
Well, it's not going to be a literal. It's going to be that size.
But that's
sacrifice a few cattle, you're fine.
But that's what I'm saying. Is that's the fun part. All right, guys, you got the cattle almost all the way across. There's a bridge wide enough for one person with no rails on the other side. How are you going to convince the cow to cross that? Because the cow's going to get to the edge and go, nope.
Yeah, well, I'm basically going to keep it like level and big enough for them to get through. But plus behind the cattle is like a small merchant caravan that has to get through. And what if you've got like tricks, traps, and all these guys, they're the scouting party. They have to go through them first and figure out, the logistics of getting a herd of cattle and a merchant caravan through the mine. And it's like, if that ain't trouble, I don't know what is.
That's a good seed. That's a really good seed.
I got the idea I told you before, at North Texas, I got practically all the series of the Hexcrawl Chronicles from Frog God.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm reading through them where they just outline like about 50 to 100 hexes in a 1,000 hex map of an area. And it's like, I could just pull these, just cherry pick whatever I want and put it into them and see what happens. I mean, with that and wandering, I'm set. And that's the kind of thing I like to pick out of as far as running a campaign, for a module for my campaign. Like I said, it's not that I'm against running one. I'm not against running one, A to Z, that kind of thing. It just doesn't work that way I do.
I just don't have time to prep the way I used to.
Exactly. That's another reason.
I actually recently, I disbanded I left my local group just because, long story, but one of the things I do for my groups, I like to think of myself as a generous GM. If I'm running a game, particularly an OSR game, and a lot of my gamer friends aren't part of the OSR and don't really know what it's about, they just know I run old D&D.
Right.
I bought 6 softcover copies of White Box Fantastic Medieval Adventure Game because now you have a copy.
Right.
Not that any of them ever read it, but that's just me. Oh my God! Oh, dude, okay.
Not bitter.
No.
Gamer rant coming in.
Here it comes. Incoming.
Do it. Just do it. I love it. Do it.
This 18-month Star Wars game I ran, I had 3 players in the group, which is fine. It worked well for the game.
Uh-huh.
I bought every single one of them a $60 core book out of my own pocket.
Ooh.
One of them read it at all. The other 2 would only pull it out at game and use it to write on when they had their characters. Use it as a back to their character sheet. And would ask me things like, what's the role for that again? For basic roles in the system. And I was just... By the time I was so mad because I'm like, you have a rule book in your hand.
Mm-hmm. But you want me to read it? Can you read it to me?
Okay, and continuing the rant, that's part of the problem I have with the D20 system. Everything became D20 in the early 2000s.
Right.
And so nobody had to read a rule book. Everybody learned how the D20 system worked. Everything was almost everything was put under D20. And it made for, let me get off my lawn, it made for lazy gamers. Because when we were kids, you want to play D&D 2nd Edition? Here's the rules for D&D 2nd Edition. You want to play Star Wars D6? Here's a separate set of rules for that. You want to play Shadowrun? Separate set of rules for that. Champion? Separate set of rules for that. Heroes? Players? Whatever. But that was the expectation, and that was the understood investment by everyone at the table. Nowadays, I got to learn a new system. I don't want to learn a new system. Shut up and suck it up, Cupcake. Take 20 minutes and read a damn book.
Well, nowadays, especially if somebody's going to give you the damn book and say, here, I'm making a $180 investment into this group. Here's a I don't even give my own damn parents this much of a gift. Here's a $60 book. You know what? Why don't you at least skim it? Could you fake a Cliff Notes on this?
Could you read the 3 pages of basic rules and the 2 pages on your class? Oh, you can't be bothered to do that? Damn it.
I ran a Savage... This is funny. I ran a Savage Worlds game using Thrilling Tales, which is best...
That's a great setting.
Exactly. Awesome. Now, one of my players... none of them had played Savage Worlds before. Okay, fine. I can deal with that. Because I wanted to sit down and make... I'm sorry, this is 50 Fathoms. I'm sorry, excuse me, 50 Fathoms. One of my players, I had the 50 Fathoms book. I had the rule book there. I walked them through character generation. I even had a cheat sheet for them. And you know how you do different extras and all this other stuff in Savage Worlds. We were an hour and a half into this character because he wanted to understand the game and every single option he had with his character. It's like, dude, you're pirates. What do you need to know? Just pick something that suits you. No. I got to read through all these edges and hinges. God, that's fine.
If I take one-handed but I put a claw on, can I change that for a musket?
Exactly. He was trying. I mean, this is not the time to min-max.
Listen, just because of the topic, I've now opened up a Saranac Summer Pills because I need a beer. Holy crap. Thank God I'm starting. Thursday, I kick off a Swords and Wizardry Light campaign at my friendly local game store, Legendary Realms, out in Plainville, New York. It'll be every other Thursday, the 1st and the 3rd of each month. And it's Swords and Wizardry Light. Most of my players from the old AD&D 1E group already have copies of Swords and Wizardry Light, which I handed out. It's 4 frickin' pages. I don't expect too many questions.
Only the front and back of which you need to play.
Right. And of course the sheet of optional rules, so they can, if they want to take classes from Continual Light, they'll have it available. And if and when we get to, moving on to level 4, I'll give them all copies of Continual Light. But if anybody, I don't have a problem with the rules question. But if somebody goes, well, I didn't read it, and it's 4 pages. The cop in me is going to come out, and I won't be playing good cop. And I won't have my nightstick with me or my baton, so I won't be able to give any wood shampoos out. But believe me, the verbal berating will be worthy.
Rubber bullets?
Intense.
Yes. Because as my son told me when he was 10, and I caught him dropping the F-bomb, and I asked him, "What are you going to do when somebody asks you where you learned that?" And he goes, "Mommy." I was like, "Thank God." And he goes, but if they ask me how I learned how to use it, I'm going to say my dad, because nobody curses like you do. He goes, "You make it really special." I'm like, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. I guess it is, but yeah.
You're special, Eric.
Hey.
But this actually goes to what's had me irritated all week is like DMs and GMs work really hard when they build a game, and I feel like I think the grumpy old grogs like us, we know that and we recognize that, and that's cool. But nowadays, people just, these damn young kids these days, not all of them, but enough of them for it to piss me off. Certainly, it seems like more do this than not. Show up and expect to be entertained. They do not need to invest. They don't put time or effort. Okay, what do I do? Okay, how do I make a character? You've had 2 weeks or a week to think about this, to do any kind of internet research to get a sense of the system, even if you don't own a book. Or if I'm running an OSR game, I'm really quick to give out books because a lot of publishers are and they just don't try. I had a guy at work, this nice guy, love him to death, dumber than a sack of hammers.
Wow, that's blunt.
I'm sorry, man. Nice guy, but stupid.
You like that, Glenn? Good.
He found out I was a game designer and that I had worked on my own stuff in Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all that stuff. And he was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" Da, 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 da. And he wants to run his own D&D game for his friends. And I'm like, "Okay, that's great." And he's like, "Well, so I've started doing, and he was playing in the Labyrinth Lord game I was running, and for at least 7 times he asked me, "What book do I need to get for this?" And I said, "It's called Labyrinth Lord, and it's free." And he's like, "And what book did you write?" I said, "I wrote several books." So he went and he's like, "Wait, is this the Labyrinth Lord book?" And it's like one of my $1 classes. And I'm like, "No." Hero's Journey, same thing as Labyrinth Lord? No. And it finally, and then he said, "Well, I decided I'm going to run I decided I want to run a game for a group of my friends, and I picked up the 5e starter box." And I'm like, "Great. It's a great place to start. It's a great resource. It's a good box set." And he's like, "I don't know how to use it." And I was like, "Read it." He's like,
but...
So I've been flipping through it, and I want to run games like you do with all this like political stuff in this world, but then I was like, "No, run the module." And he's like, "But I want to do it like you do." I was like, "Dude, I've been playing these games for 30 years. Stop it. You got to walk before you can run." And he said, "Well, how do I do this with Labyrinth Lord?" And I was like, "What? No." And finally, poor kid, and I say kid, he's in his 20s. He comes out to me one day, and I'm sitting there reading, like on my Kindle, like obviously reading. When you see somebody obviously reading, I find it really rude to just walk up to them and start talking to them. And he comes up to me and he sees me reading, and he goes, "Hey, James." And I looked at him and I said, "If it's about gaming, I don't care. I've given you the resources, the links, the websites, and told you what you need to read. You need to figure it out on your own."
You're an old meanie.
And he like shriveled like a wilted flower, the poor kid, because I've never been like snappy with him. But it's just,
how old is he?
In his mid-20s, 25.
He
wasn't like a 10-year-old kid. If it's a 10-year-old kid or 15-year-old kid, I understand.
Yeah, he's
you
kind
smack him in the back of the head. Yeah.
And I was like, "God, I've turned into an angry old grognard. What happened?" But
let me tell you, there's certain people that will just, they're stupid, and it's not even ignorant. It's not even.
No, I don't think he means well.
Stupid.
I don't think it's not I'm stupid and I'm like it. It's that I've engaged in far too many recreational pharmaceutical activities. But like he means well and he's earnestly interested, and that's nice. Okay. But if you're genuinely interested, then you need to pursue it of your own initiative.
Yeah, it doesn't understand the buy-in, the time put in to actually sit down and read this.
Right. And I think that part of it is, and this is not necessarily their fault, is a lot of younger gamers, when they come to the hobby and they game with people who have been doing it for a long time, they're afraid they're going to quote unquote do it wrong. And there is no real doing it wrong.
Right.
Because you're going to make mistakes your first time out. I had a buddy of mine who I've been gaming with for 10 years, and we were talking. He wants to run a game, and he reads books, and he tries. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, but I don't want to make mistakes. Like, you never make mistakes. I was like, dude, last session, let me tell you about the 7 mistakes I made that you guys never knew about. And I went down the list of, and they're like, well, how come we didn't know? I was like, because you didn't need to. You went into the plot, and we kept going.
Behind the screen.
Yep.
That's right. You learn to make corrections on the fly.
I think the greatest skill you learn from gaming is how to improvise.
Exactly. I've done it many a time. It's a bit of a sweat, but it works. And a lot of times, if somebody catches me flat-footed, whatever comes out is usually better than what I had down here on the paper. So I never. It's not like I don't. I mean, I'm a lazy DM, like the classic lazy DM, but it's not like I don't prep at all. But you got to prep some. You got to know which direction you're going in. But at the same time, if the players throw you a curve, or the scenario throws you a curve, or life throws you a curve, compensate and go with it.
I have what I call campaign in a bag. I actually keep the multiple copies of White Box I have. The White Box Omnibus, Majestic Wilderlands, and a few other.
I love Majestic Wilderlands.
It's great. And but I keep them in a bag with a set of dice. And I can pick it up and a stack of character sheets and a Hammer Dog screen with the inserts. That way I can literally, somebody go, hey, let's do a campaign. Boom.
That sounds like
10 minutes. Because I've read
my bag of holding.
Because I've read these modules, or wrote them in some cases. I've read this material. I know it. Here's a book for you to reference. Let's go. And I think people who are less experienced find that intimidating.
It's called a hip pocket adventure. Yeah, you always got it in your hip pocket.
Exactly. And it's not that it's intimidating. It seems intimidating to them, but to us it's not, because we use these ultra rules light systems, and we have 20, 30 years of familiarity with their basis.
You know what's sitting in my bag of holding right now, besides you already mentioned, is a printed off copy from the PDF of the Holmes Dungeon, the BX Dungeon, and the Menser Dungeon from the sets. Fantastic. And I leave them in there.
Yeah, because you can just grab and go.
That's right.
So basically, between the Fantastic Medieval Adventure, the Omnibus, and Majestic Wilderlands, I have a campaign setting, 3 adventures, optional rules, and rules for base rules ready to go.
My rules cycle, probably seen it, the denim cover, the pocket in the front. Guess what goes in the pocket? All 3 of those, and a couple of blank character sheets.
Which I think, actually, besides just ranting all night, one of the things that we could bring up that I would really advise is take a module that's low level or first level that like the back of your hand, and stick it in a bag with your favorite rule set.
Exactly.
And you can
what we just said.
Yeah. Well, but people were like, oh, that sounds really cool. We'll do it, because then, I want to know what D&D is like. Here, let me sit down and introduce you to the glory of D&D. And as much as it frustrates me to give people books and have them not read them, I still do it, because if somebody takes that, how cool was it when you were a kid? And I mean, we were young when we all started, but you read through these rules, and all the adventures and the ideas just start playing through your head, and you're just like, oh wow, I could do this. Wouldn't it be cool to do this? And that, to me, is what really hooks people into gaming, is when you read, your rule book, and then the concept of infinite potential, and oh my god, I could do any cool thing. What if I did this? What if I made a character like this? What if he went on an adventure like that?
That was me in my first copy of Champion.
It was me with Star Wars D6. It was me with my Rules Cyclopedia. Hey, Glenn, the Rules Cyclopedia was the first set that I would think of as my set. That's how young and that was 91. But I spent 4 years before that making countless Star Wars characters, and because I didn't have anybody to play with. I would just be like, oh man, what if I made a Jedi and he went like this, and I made a pilot.
My other thrill is reading the rules and stuff and understanding them, and then going to the game table and seeing them in action for the first time.
Oh yeah, that's how I learned to really love spellcasters. When you start learning the rules well enough to cast spells as they cast them sideways, everyone. Well, like a good example in second edition AD&D, Monster Summoning 1 is a third level spell. It lasts 1 round per level. You summon a couple 1-hit die monsters. Okay, that can be useful. Or you could cast Mount, which is a first level spell that summons a 2-hit die horse that lasts for an hour per level. You cast Mount in the middle of a bar fight, you won.
I never thought of that. That's a good use.
Wow,
But that's just it. You're like, wait a minute. Based on this, I could do this with a spell. That's kind of awesome.
My God.
That's damn good.
That is damn. I'm going to write that one down.
I would do stuff like that. I had a wizard who would, like, I was like a first or second level wizard, and we were fighting like 30 goblins. We got pinned on this cliffside by goblins. I was like, guys, I got this. I only need 2 spells. I'm like, what do you need? I need light, and I need cloud of fog. They're like, what? You don't need to sleep? I was like, no, fuck that. So what I did was I went to the top of the mountain and I cast light right above my head so they saw me. And I waved at them like, hey, come get me. And then when they started to charge at me, because we knew they didn't have ranged weapons, I cast fog cloud, and I jumped off the edge of the cliff and kind of held off to the side, and they all charged over the side, and most of them died. I defeated like 15, 20 goblins that way. But that's what happens when you start learning your rule systems. Hey, I could do this, and this would be cool, and and that's not just for wizards. That can be any class. Oh, I'm a fighter, and well, if I use daggers, I can get multiple attacks, and I can actually take out multiple people, or I can have a ranged and a melee weapon at the same time, and it's so light, and I don't have to lug around a sword, or I can put these kind of tricks on my arrows,
Right.
And thieves are made for that kind of thing.
This is how creativity happens.
Things like, okay, if find your move traps works for finding and removing traps, if you look at them, hey, can I use that to set traps too? Can I use open locks to lock doors behind me that I don't have a key for? And to me, that's a perfectly reasonable extension. You start thinking beyond the rules as they're written.
That's right.
That's where it starts getting really fun. And I think when you don't read the rules, you never get that. You expect it all to be handed to you.
Yeah.
What you can do. It's the old computer game. All right, I got options 1 through 4. Which key do I hit? No. Okay, I hit 7, and then something interesting happens. And I think if you don't read your rules, you don't get confident in them, and then you're not willing to take those kinds of risks.
You've got to know it well enough to make a character, do some combat play. Then you go back after the game. Okay, I made a wizard. I've got these spells. Maybe he'll let me trade out this spell for that spell because it'd be more effective. Ooh, what can I do with this in the next fight? Ooh, that's neat. That kind of thing.
And another thing I have found, I don't know if you guys had this problem when you were younger, but I noticed it among our gamers, is if they die, they feel like they lost.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
And like, to me, if you die, well, you died. Okay, no big deal, make another character. But, a good character death can be fun.
It could.
Definitely.
It could. I mean, oh, God, 12 Years of Champions could just flash back to me. Yeah, and not only die, try and capture a party sometime.
See, I'm really loath to capture parties and cast hold spells on them, because one thing for me in game is I want my players to have agency.
Well, I always give them agency, but
I'd actually rather give them a TPK than chain them up, and because the TPK they'll like, well, we died a valiant death, as opposed to.
Did you really?
Well, as opposed to being like, I lost all my, and now I have to worry about what? I mean, and it's one thing to kick a campaign off with people, chained up or whatever, and that's how you're kicking it off. But
that's one thing. But
to do that to the party, I can't. I couldn't, man. I'd rather.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm gonna say, like, you know what module I hate? I hate it. Slave Lords. Because it starts out with them mid-level on a boat with their getting tossed in the ocean. And to me, that's a giant. And it's not fair to the players.
Now, admittedly, it was a convention module. So it got converted to a player campaign module. The conversion really wasn't great, if you ask me, but yeah.
I don't have problem modules where you start a dungeon with nothing and you're a 0 character. You don't even know what the hell's going on at first. Then, if you're working 0 to first level, I can do that once in a while. I have no problem with that.
And I think that's one of the strengths of DCC. I like the way DCC starts out. Here, you're a mook. Earn not being a mook.
Yeah, the character funnel.
Yep.
I just don't like the way they do it. That's all.
I happen to like it.
And I get why some people like it and some people don't. But I think it's definitely a clever mechanic, and I think it makes being a warrior or being a magic user something special.
Yeah, true.
Definitely.
True. Anyway, kind of run out, didn't we?
No, I don't think we ran out. I think we keep on going, but I think we got to run out.
We got to run out eventually.
I think we're going to have to declare this the tap out time.
I think we should call this. I think we should call this
last call, people.
I think this episode should be called 1975.
Oh Lord!
And now, are we going to do it like 1975 or with Roman numerals?
Let's just do regular because I still can't read Roman numerals properly if they get too long.
All right, 1975 it is.
I'll let you guys figure that out. And I have no problem with that. So I guess we should say last call and. James?
It is definitely last call. Take us home. All right, it's last call. Get your them up and on out of here.
Right, you can't take them outside because we need the glasses. So gotta finish it here.
Yeah, we'll give you a sponge on the way.
A sponge?
There we go.
Fuck on this. You bastards, get out of here.
Yes.
Where's my tip? Damn it! Where's my tip? All right. Can I
piss in the wind?
Yeah, there you go. Good night, folks.
Or don't piss in your friend. How about that? Goodbye.
Put your friend in the wind. Good night, folks.
Heroes Brew theme provided by the Lonely Mountain Band. Check them out on Facebook or at lonelymountain.guildlaunch.com. If you have any questions or comments, email us at heroesbrewpodcast@gmail.com. Last call. See you next time at Tinker's Tavern, where you can always get a pint of Heroes Brew.